Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life with Fran and Angela. My name is Fran, and you are listening to episode number 144. This is, of course, wild, wonkety, probably wonkety before wild. And then you guys know it's going to turn into something so deep and rich and spiritual and meaningful. I'm going to share with you some really incredible, life-changing things that I got to experience with the Lord a couple of weeks ago, and I think it will encourage you. I know that it will. As always, thanks for listening, you guys. We love you so much. Enjoy the show. Okay, everybody, we need y'all to know that we have had massive technical difficulties today, and I feel like we literally don't know what we're doing. Like, this is the very first episode.
Well, you may feel like that, but I feel like you are an engineer in my brain now, Fran, because what can you not do? Because of Fran and her engineering, ladies, you can hear us.
Oh, my God.
I've been in the fetal position in the corner crying, and Fran has fixed it all. So thank you, Fran. You're the hero.
Zoom is stupid. It's not working at all. And we come up to the recording studio in the library like we do, and the computer in here is messed up.
You know what I say to all this?
What?
Not today, Satan.
Oh, we gonna figure it out.
Our God is greater, and clearly there's a message of encouragement for y'all that you need to hear because all hell has come against us.
Listen, on a Friday afternoon, people.
Friday afternoon, and after a hard, crazy week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we are.
This has been a wild week, but okay, so this releases on March 25th. Mm-hmm. I am a little bit weary this afternoon because we're in the middle of March Madness.
Oh, my gosh, y'all.
We stayed up. First of all, everybody's bracket got busted almost immediately.
And there's games to be played this weekend. We don't even know what's going to happen after we, save this episode.
I'm going to proudly say I went with my heart and not my head, and Carl and I both have our balls going all the way.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
And I hope they don't get the March flu.
I know.
And choke like we're going to do. So hopefully when this airs, we will be going strong. But last night we stayed up till midnight and watched Samford, and we're so proud of them, but it was such a heartbreaking loss. And then I was so worked up I couldn't sleep.
Yeah, I know.
Felt like I was out there.
I know.
It's so much fun.
I know. This is the madness of March Madness.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Okay, so on a happy note.
But wait, I wish people could see because I'm
in your lap.
Well, I feel like we're just leaning into a computer. We are recording off of the platform that houses all these episodes. And so we've never done that before. And so thank you, Libsyn, for the ability to do that. That's a new ability. But I feel like I'm on top of Angela's computer because I don't know what this is going to sound like. I don't know what's happening. Anyway.
Meanwhile, I'm getting a crazy text from my family. Where are we meeting for dinner?
I know. Okay, so we're going to talk fast and furious.
Okay, so I need the people listening to know that it's Easter week.
Yeah, it is.
We're all thinking forward to all the beautiful things that are holy and Jesus related, and also and also what to put in those Easter baskets. So we have teamed up. Y'all have probably seen, if you're on social media, Annika Brooks is so precious and is doing a $50 gift certificate giveaway.
Yay!
The drawing is Wednesday night, so when this comes out on Monday, everybody listening, get on social media, and we will share the video. And Shop Hello Grace is her account, and there are instructions as to what to do to enter. But y'all, she has the cutest stuff. The main moral of this story is shop local. Hattie's and Lily Mae, and there's so many cute shops that are owned by women that we love that listen to this podcast. And let's just support them.
Yeah.
Try to stay off Amazon.
I know. So what is Hello Grace? Is it Instagram only? Is this through the contest? Did she post this on Facebook and Instagram?
She did. I am so proud. Shout out to you, Annika.
Yes.
I said, please come to Facebook where the mothers are.
Right.
And not just the cool younger crowd.
Right.
So, yes, it's on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Shop Hello Grace.
Shop Hello Grace.
And Annika is how old? I mean, she's a child.
She's a senior in college.
With her own store.
With her own store. She is chasing her dreams and just doing it. Just doing the thing. And she's got the cutest, every kind of price range, big, small, in between. Just cute stuff.
So proud of her.
I know. It's so great. I told you one day, I think it was Monday night.
Y'all, we are literally 2 inches apart from one another.
We're like in each other's faces.
It's awkward.
I feel like we're at a slumber party whispering secrets under the covers and we're supposed to be asleep. It's like, don't let them know we're up past our bedtime.
While Angela's talking, I'm going to take a photo of us so that y'all can see
funny.
this. Okay.
Okay, so first of all...
Keep talking, Angela. Act like I'm not doing this.
Okay, I mean, look natural. So first of all... This is just great. We, before Kaylee went back to college, we decided to have... No, wait. I'm telling this wrong. Kaylee was not here. It was just Carl and Cole and myself. We decided to have a family movie night and spent the first 45 minutes just nobody could decide. It was worse than like, what do you want to have for dinner? Nobody could decide. Cole came up with, hey, have y'all seen Groundhog Day?
When was this?
This was about a week ago.
Okay. Groundhog Day?
Of all the random,
okay.
Yes. Because, so... maybe Kaylee was home. You know, Groundhog Day is where he can't remember what happens, and that's how I feel right now.
Hello.
But it just made me think, like, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, other than now I have amnesia. But it was just such a sweet moment. Now, granted, when my family's home and I'm relaxed, they make jokes that I take 3 or 4 naps on the couch before bedtime.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
how you
know.
know I'm happy and relaxed, because I'll just... I'm like, y'all just carry on. I'm going to sleep because I'm happy that you're all here. I think Kaylee must have been home. I don't know. Anyway, it was just funny because it was like, oh my goodness, there are so many movies now that I want to go back and watch.
Yeah.
And almost all of them hinge around really great Saturday Night Live characters back when it was good.
Yeah.
In the 80s and the 90s. So anyway.
Yeah.
If y'all are watching some kind of old classic movie that we need to know about that we've forgotten about, well, let us know.
I know. We need to know what to watch.
And then farm updates.
Yes.
We have a swan egg.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we all know. We all know. If you give us a 10-second remember, because some of you may not remember. I know about these swan eggs because this is not always like, oh, this is the best story in all the world. We have some history with these swan eggs.
We've had a swan saga.
Yes, we have.
Over the years.
Yes.
So Mick is the original male. His original wife, Eden, was eaten by a fox. And then his next wife, Sapphire, died after giving birth last year. Was it last year?
Sure.
Anyway.
Yes.
Then Reba got sick and almost died and had to go to the vet. That's when I had to stick my hand in her mouth.
Yeah.
To get
Yeah.
And then we found out Reba was not really Reba. She's a boy. and is breeding with one of the girls. So now Reba is Roberto. I don't know. So then Mick has paired off with one of the others. So anyway, we're not going to talk about the fact that that's his daughter because they're birds and apparently that doesn't matter. But anyway, we've got 2 swan couples at Snyder Farms, and one of them has succeeded in producing 1 egg so far.
Okay. And where is the egg? In a little nest somewhere?
Carl created a little floating, he's just so precious the way he loves these animals. He created a little floating, like a pallet. He turned it into a little floating dock, I guess, and then he showed them how to build a nest out of straw. He got it started for them. And I'd
love to hear the conversation.
He gets
as
so
he's
excited.
Doing this and instructing them.
He prompts them along. It's so sweet. He tends to them, and he's like, "Now look, I'm." And then Mick is steadily trying to eat him, and he's like, "You big dummy, I'm here to feed you." And then I get panicky, and he's like, "This bird has no teeth. Like, why are you running from him?" But anyway,
because he's a big old swan. That's why.
So almost every day, I send Fran a video of Mick and Carl fighting. Mick was in the middle of our highway, and I sent you a video. Carl had to get out and save him from a truck in oncoming traffic, and then Mick is trying to eat Carl while Carl is trying to get Mick out of the highway. And Carl lost his favorite hat. Mick knocked his hat off in that process, and it went straight in a mud puddle. But they really do need a book or a show or a
This is spiritual. This is all very spiritually relevant. It is.
It is.
The Lord is trying to save us from our dang selves, and we cause all manner of chaos in the middle of the highway.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's also morel mushroom season on the farm. Carl has found more mushrooms, and I still get a little bit weird for a minute going, am I going to hallucinate or die in my sleep when I eat this mushroom that you brought home from the farm? But they're delicious.
What? Hang on. Let's go back to this egg for a minute. How long is this baby going to be in this egg? What is this process?
I'm trying to remember.
Is it months?
It's a long time. And he did say that he noticed, and Carl just this is spiritual too. He notices things about these birds that he loves so much. But he said he noticed the female was really eating like all day yesterday, and they eat almost like bears going into hibernation when they know they're about to sit on that nest for a long period of time.
Oh.
They just gorge themselves.
Listen,
And
I can
maybe
pretend. I'm going to pretend. This is what I'm doing. I'm nesting. I'm nesting. Okay, that's awesome.
That's fun.
Yes, I love that.
And then shout out to Tori Wilkerson, who has been on the podcast before.
Yes.
She suggested to me
love
this
that.
book.
It's beautiful.
Have you heard of this? First Light and Eventide, a daily gratitude journal by Tsh Oxenrider. I guess I'm saying Tish right.
Yes.
It's TSH with no vowel. But it is so cool. Every morning and every evening, and this is, Fran, you do this. You're so good at this. But every morning and every evening, you put your 3 things that you're thankful for. And in the morning, it's what's one thing true, absolutely true about myself or God, and then one thing in my control that would make today a good one. So that's just a great way to start any kind of morning, setting your intention. And then in the evening...
Sorry, I'm taking photos, guys.
In the evening, you list 3 things you're thankful for this evening, one thing that would have made today better, and then one thing you can ask for God's help with. And yes, the one thing that would make I always want to say giraffes, but the word is gaffs. So
GAFFES, everyone. Here's your new word for the day.
now we're going to spell again on the spelling show.
But I'm like, that's an interesting word.
It is. And then it's, it's just so good to learn. I have such a fear of failure, which is so dumb because nobody's perfect. And just seeing that as a growth opportunity and not, well, my life is doomed and over because I screwed up. I might as well just quit. No, that's not what we do.
No.
Probably not. Okay. And then
I love this.
the last thing I'm going to say, and I don't have the recipe with me, but one night when I cooked something really great for supper, I got so tickled at what I did to quote Fran and Angela, as I do often. But I had this recipe for this chicken taco casserole, and you could even do rotisserie chicken and really save yourself some time. But I even cooked the chicken. I put it all together. It's like corn and black beans and rotel and plain Greek yogurt. It was really high in protein and healthy, but good because you put cheese on top and let it melt. Well, I knew the recipe said combine all these things and cook it for 30 minutes, then add the cheese on top, then cook that, like bake it for 5 minutes to let the cheese melt. Well, while I'm assembling the casserole, my daughter calls me to tell me about this horrible mistake that she made that day. Long story short, they all borrow dresses, and she just was not thinking about it, and apparently told 2 different girls they could borrow the dress that she had worn.
Oh, no.
So she's like, Mom, you won't believe what I did. She's telling me about this epic fail. Meanwhile, as I'm listening to her, I put the casserole in the oven, set the timer for 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes later, I think dinner's ready. And I start putting it on plates. And I'm still listening to Kaylee tell me, and she had a solution. She fixed her mess. She had another dress that worked out fine.
Meanwhile,
But I'm like, I'm either so sympathetic or so empathetic that I've made a royal screw up listening to her royal screw up because I took a 30-minute dinner and baked it in 5 minutes. The cheese is all melted, and I'm like, great. Now it's not cooked, but the cheese is melted. So now what do I do? And Carl is so sweet and kind and patient. He was like, baby, it's fine. Just stir it all up, and that way the cheese is like mixed in. Put it back in the oven. But y'all, 30 minutes later, it was incredible.
I was going to say, please, Lord, let it be
It
good.
was so
Your stomach doesn't care what it looks like.
No. And it was so good, and it was healthy, but it didn't taste healthy. It tasted delicious.
Well, you're going to put the recipe in the stories, in the
am.
Instagram stories for us.
I am, because I felt like such a not failure by the time it hit my stomach.
Yeah.
So, okay, so all that to say, The main thing I want us to talk about is your go trip because, first of all, I'm so proud of you for going. And second of all, so selfishly, that was the longest, hardest week of my life because you abandoned me. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? Usually we talk all day, every day. And when I was here, usually we're gone at the same time.
Right. And your sister was gone.
My sister was gone.
It was spring break season.
It was spring break.
Everybody left Angela.
Everybody left me. And if I sound really pitiful right now, I'm not emphasizing enough how truly pitiful it was. So I hope you feel horrible for leaving me. However, oh my gosh, Fran, your trip was amazing. And we still have not really talked a whole lot about
it. On purpose. Because I like to, if I haven't said the things that I'm going to say to somebody, then it's easier for me to talk about. But if I know we've already talked about it, then I feel like, oh, you've already heard this, and I need to, shorten things.
Do not shorten anything we need at all. And also, before you're done, we have to talk about how your reentry process is.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate humans.
When Fran comes home from any mission trip, she just hates it. I get tickled because I'm like just in Voxer land like normal, telling her things. And I'm like, Fran hates everything that's coming out of my mouth
pretty
right
much.
now.
But that's
okay. That's normal.
It's tough. It's tough to get reacclimated to what we do here. But
so remind everybody where you went, who you went with, why you went, who set up the trip.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, I'm going to say this too. I'm not going to walk you through the mission trip because that can, for people that like have never been on mission trips or they're like, oh my God, I don't want to hear about this because you know what I'm going to say. This is not what's going to happen, okay? Because I'm going to make this very life applicable to you, and I've got some things for us all to consider. So I'm going to just give 2 things out of the whole week that the Lord has chosen to plant into my mind, into my heart. And other things, too, will surface over time because that's what happens. Let me just remind everybody, I've said this again and again and again, that your whole life is nothing but a series of experiences and moments and opportunities, and everything is being woven together for our good and His glory. And so things are always there. Moments are always there. Sometimes it's later when something surfaces and you go, oh, I see what you're doing here, Lord. Like, we know that because I know that in just regular old living, but I also know that from mission trip opportunities and the transformation that takes place there because I can recall things, or the Lord will surface things from 10 years ago that tells me there's fruit coming out of that season still years later. But that's our reminder. That's all of life. So anyway, this trip was through Union University. Our university ministries does a go trip. We call them go trips. And you're either going over spring break or you are going at the end of the semester in May. And those May trips are longer. They're to farther places. So that's why they go in May. So the spring break trips are not as complex in nature. Well, I've never been able to lead a go trip before. I've been asked many, many, many times, and I've never been able to do that before. But this year I was able to, and I immediately said, absolutely yes. Sign me up for all the years to come. I will do this again and again. And so this trip was myself and Amy Eads. She's a dear friend and a coworker. We got to lead this trip with 8 college students, varying in age, where they're from, their life, what they major in. Very hodgepodge group of people, which is what I absolutely love. And we took them to Clarkston, Georgia. Clarkston is just outside of Atlanta. It's on the east side of Atlanta. It just, like any city, it all just kind of feels like it runs together. So it's just on the other side of Atlanta. And what's so absolutely fascinating about Clarkston is in this very small town, it is predominantly made up of refugees. And these refugees are coming from literally all over the world. So we were exposed to families and communities that would be from Afghanistan, from Nepal, in India, from They could be from Africa. They could be from Palestine. I mean, these are people from all over the world. And so that not only are they making it the community in their residential lives and just where they're living, but they're also the community. So what you eat, where you shop, the market, the restaurant is just every type of ethnic food, every type of cultural food is in that area. So you don't see a McDonald's, you don't see a Chick-fil-A. Like, what you are immersed in a ton of different cultures. So we did get to eat a ton of different foods, and that was really, really cool to experience different types of foods. But anyway, so 2 things, and I'm only going to talk about 2, even though I could talk about 10, but these 2 things are significant to all of us. So you didn't have to be on the trip to get this. So the very first of the week, we went to, this was on a Monday, so we had just gotten there on Sunday. We experienced an international church service, and then we went back later and experienced a Sudanese service, and these are people from Sudan, and the people in Sudan have been in conflict and are still in conflict, have been in conflict for so long. And so it's people that have family still there. Their hearts and their lives are still very connected to this part of the world. And so that was a lot of fun. That was just, kind of orienting ourselves on Sunday night. We did a great training on how does one become a refugee. And you're becoming a refugee because wherever you're from, there's some kind of conflict, chaos, war that's taking place, and you are having to flee your country for your life. And so where you
just pause right there.
Well, I know
I cannot even get my brain around that.
I'll tell you this too. I'll quickly say that we went through a refugee simulation loss where we had to identify on sticky notes, we had to identify the 4 most important people in our life. Only 4. You could not pick more than 4. Only 4 people. You also picked, for example, like things that you are known for, things that characterize your life. You're a wife, you're a mom, you work at so-and-so place. You could never say, I'm a Christian. That was could not be an identifying mark for you. You would pick hobbies, things that you enjoy. Anyway, you went through this process, and so they would take us through these refugee stories, and all stories were different. And so if there's chaos and there's war that has erupted immediately, and you have a child at school, and you also have children at home, and your husband is far away, and you have to make a split-second decision, what are you picking up and taking with you? You get to choose one person, you get to choose one heirloom that means everything to you, and just this whole journey of having to quickly decide. And then in a lot of cases, the person doesn't get to decide. The people are deciding for you what you are able to take, and you have to flee for your life. And we were just sobbing at the end because nobody wants to have to make those decisions, but it's happening all the time. And so when you hear about these conflicts and this unrest and these wars that are taking place that seem so very far away, and they are, it's more personal to me now because I've sat with women, I've sat with children who have gone, I could cry right now, who have gone through that. And they're trying to get acclimated and figure out their life in a brand new place that is so foreign to what they know. And how they land in America is definitely, it's a wonderful process. It's very lengthy. The government does a great job at helping them through that process. But somebody could be in a refugee camp for 10, 15, 20 years before they ever make it out. And these camps are exactly what you would visualize of just tent after tent. And, it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. So anyway, we are able to slowly acclimate ourselves to this greater world that we are a very small part of. And we were doing that on Sunday and Sunday night. And then Monday morning comes, and we weren't even really sure where we were going, but we just get in our little vans and we, put the address in our phone, and we go to this ministry that's called Renew Outreach. And we didn't really even know what they did, but we pull in, and you can tell it's a house that has been renovated to meet their ministry needs. We go in, a cute guy meets us at the door, and he says, "Do you want me to explain to you and to the group like who we are and what we do?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely," because I'm like, I didn't say this, but I was like, I'm just not real sure what y'all do. And so he gives us a quick tour in their lobby, and basically what they're doing is they're not all graduates, but a lot of them are graduates from Georgia Tech. And if anybody knows anything about higher ed and Georgia Tech, these are brilliant minds in engineering, computer science, the IT world. I mean, brilliant. This is the school that you want to go to, and it's going to cost you $1 bazillion, and you're going to come out of it just like whatever you want to do is yours. You can do that. So these are brilliant people that have graduated from Georgia Tech, and they have chosen to use their gift and their talent for the kingdom of God. And they create and advance technology in such a way that technology is taking the gospel into these war-torn areas, these places that are truly the ends of the earth, to share the gospel. And again, I'm just going to pause and say, I cannot tell you how many times, and I still am asking myself, what am I doing with my life? What am I literally doing with my life? And so they're using technology to advance the gospel into very remote places all over the world. So we get this quick summary, and we're like, oh my God, okay. Then he takes us downstairs, and there's lots of people here. We're not even exactly sure like what we're stepping into, but we basically are stepping into what would feel like and look like to you a big den. And there's couches, and there's high-top tables and little bar stools, and there's a kitchen in the back, and the technology, I can already tell, is like, I've never seen this before. This is crazy. And there's two people sitting on a stool at the front of the room, and one guy's got a guitar, the other girl's just sitting there, and apparently we're about to start a worship service. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so that's what happened. We were a part of a worship service. And this was it was very spirit-filled. It was very spirit-led. There's no program. It's got structure, but not really. And they're singing, and we know the songs, but there's no sheet music. There's nothing on screens. You just know what you're singing. Halfway through the service, this lady that was standing to my left, she comes up and she takes a mic in the middle of the room, and she said, we just need to pause because I just want to encourage somebody in this room. I feel very clearly that the Holy Spirit's telling me that somebody in this room is being called to some international mission work. And I see from the corner of my eye, I see a response to that statement out of our students. Mm-hmm. And I did not know this at the time, but leading up to this trip, one of our team members really felt like she was being called to serve the Lord internationally. So they're having a moment. That woman just prays and speaks such beautiful truth over the group. And then she comes back, stands beside me, and we keep worshiping. And when I tell you it was spirit-filled, it was spirit-filled. And so that ends, and we're told that we're going to just pray in groups of 3 and 4. And my friend Amy is standing next to me. I know somebody's standing behind me. I know that lady is standing to my left. And we just kind of are like, what are we supposed to do? And again, I'm trying to process what's happened, as well as what these people do, as well as who all is in this room, the variety of ages, and just trying to figure out what is literally happening. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. So the 4 of us, we get together, and these people, these 2 ladies, start praying over 2 strangers in such a beautiful, intense way that immediately I knew the Lord is doing something. He's up to something. I don't know what it is, but I'll take this all day long. And then another lady comes up to me, and I'm not going to tell you what she said, but she spoke tremendous encouragement over me that all I just remember is just like sobbing. And then the service is over and we're just like, oh my word, what is going on here? It's Monday at 9:15 at this point. And so we all just come together and we move towards the kitchen, and they're about to take us on a tour of their facilities. And this lady passed by us and she said, okay, who are you all? And tell me again, like who you're with, where you're from. And we told her, and we're just having this conversation. And I said to her, or I asked her, I said, do you all do this like once a week? What is this like? What is this that we just did? And she said, no, we do this every day. We start our day off. We will not go to work without worshiping the Lord together. And I was like, oh my word. Oh my word. There's 72 lessons in that, which I wish we could talk about. But anyway, and so then she goes on to tell us how, every year as an entire ministry business, they fast and pray before they even begin to consider what they're going to do with the Lord and for the Lord in this next year. And she gave some different stories of what led them to their theme, their purpose for this year. So it was just a fun conversation. So then we go on tour with a guy that happened to be singing, playing the guitar. His name is Josiah, and I'm fascinated by Josiah. I'm just taking in all of it. Just all of a sudden, all of my senses are heightened, and I'm very aware of what's being said, the things that are on the wall, things that people are saying. Like, this place is ministry and work like I've not seen in a very, very long time. And so we get to see all the different things that they do with technology, and then they want, what our purpose for being there that day is they have these specific backpacks that we put together different equipment in that will, these pallets, I think we put together a total of 4 pallets of these backpacks, 100 and something backpacks that will get shipped to Africa. And ultimately, just what we did will serve 2 to 3 million people in advancing the gospel. Wow. It's very humbling to be a part of that when you consider this great big world that we live in, and the Lord chooses to use us in a very tiny but very significant way for his kingdom. And so the energy that they have, this one darling young girl would come out and she would say, don't forget, this is for the kingdom. And it was just like their perspective and their understanding of work and ministry was gorgeous. So then we have lunch. We're all sitting at a very long table. If you can envision a very long table, just 2 sides, that's it. You're sitting on one side or the other. They serve us. These are the most hospitable, kind people. And we're just having conversation. This is not just general, generic conversation. This is very spiritual. It's very deep. If they have us, we're going to go into the deep water, and that's where we're going to have conversation. I don't remember the question that I asked of Josiah. He kind of led this lunch, but I asked him a question, and I don't remember the question because his answer is more important than the question. But his answer was, he said, if you can figure out, and I'm using hand gestures here, you're not going to be able to see this, but you'll get the idea. He said, if you know who you are, if you know your gifts, you know your skills, you know your talents, the Lord has placed you on this earth for this work, whatever that is. Do you even know? And he's looking at our college students. Do you know what that is? Because if you don't, you've got to figure that out. You don't go into the world blind, completely blind. So know what you're good at. Know how the Lord is calling you into the area of work. And then the second part of this, so now I've got 2 hands side by side. The second part is just as important, but probably more important, is, do you know the Lord? Are you loving him and serving him in the way that you should? Because what's happening is it's very out of balance. And so that's what we saw. We were able to witness people that know without a doubt what God has called them to do, and they're doing it with tremendous affection for the Lord. And it's not something you have to wonder. And yes, I know that they are working in a ministry, but I'll get to that in a minute as far as, are you being transformed by the gospel? Because if you are, your life is going to show it. And it's not something you hide, because when you receive the Holy Spirit inside of you, when you receive Christ, you're a new creation. You should be different. And so is your life bearing evidence, fruit of that? And so to watch these people do that with such joy and such talent was the biggest breath of fresh air. And it was Monday, and we were just like putting backpacks together. And so Josiah gets up because we're about to leave and move on to our next project for the afternoon. And I asked Josiah, I said, Josiah, how old are you? Because I could tell he was just young. Come to find out, that little guy is 26 years old. He's just a child. But he is so smart, and he's so gifted, and he knows who he is. And the Lord allowed him to graduate from Georgia Tech with a computer science degree and take that knowledge and put it beside his deep love and joy and affection for the Lord and make a tremendous difference for the kingdom of God in both ways. Anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, Josiah, I will never forget you. This has just changed my life, and I'm so proud of you, and that I got to be a tiny, small piece of the work that you do. So we left there. I'm going to fast forward to Thursday. And in between, we served refugee families. Most of them were Muslim or Indian. It was also Ramadan, which was absolutely fascinating because it had just begun. And so if you're Muslim, you are going to fast from sunup to sundown, and you do not have food or water. Families decide at what age their children will begin this discipline. And sometimes even then it's just 2 or 3 times a week. But the Ramadan lasts for 30 days. So let's just pause and consider, if you're a Christian, what is your dedication and your commitment like to the Lord? Because that's intense. They don't waver. They don't waver there. But anyway, we served a lot of different refugee families, and it was that in and of itself was just a lot to process and absorb. But we get to Thursday, and our partner in this week was an organization called Send Relief. Send Relief is under the umbrella of the North American Mission Board. So we'd been with them. They had organized our whole week. We were staying in their facilities, which were absolutely phenomenal. They were very, very kind and good and gracious to us. But come Thursday morning, Samuel with Send Relief spends the morning with us because Samuel wants to take us through an hour-and-a-half training on Hinduism, because we were going to go to a Hindu temple later for a Hindu worship service. Come to find out, Samuel was one of the refugee stories that we had heard in that simulation loss. Samuel had lived in a refugee camp for 15 years. He grew up he was born and raised in a refugee camp. He was born and raised a Hindu because of where he lived. He grew up in Nepal. Found his way to the United States. He's a Christian. He, again, is just like Josiah. He knows his purpose in life. He knows what the Lord has called him to do for an occupation, and he does so with tremendous compassion, joy, and gratitude to the Lord, because he knows, he gets it. He doesn't play around. He's not wasting any time and trying to be nice in the process. He takes us through this exercise so that we could learn about another world religion, because how in the world can we be prepared and equipped to speak to others? Like for me, I was speaking to people I don't speak to in Jackson, Tennessee. So in order to serve people well as a whole, as a person, regardless of where you are, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of your neighbor, and we're called to love them, it really is helpful to have some basic understanding and knowledge of other religions. Because otherwise you're going to approach it from a place of, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm very arrogant and you're stupid, and that is not the way to love your neighbor. So we want to come from a place of, I understand your culture. Sam taught us to always understand people's culture and always understand their religion. So my mind is immediately swirling to back home of international students, international athletes. You have to understand, and not even internationals, just people in general. You need to understand people's background, where they're coming from, and you need to understand everybody's coming from some kind of religion. They probably are, even if it's just from their family and they've inherited it. They're coming from some type of background. Okay, so Sam is asking us a couple of questions at the beginning of this training. He said, okay, he's asking the group, and Sam doesn't play around. If you don't answer, he's going to call on you, which I deeply appreciate, because we have to know who we are and what we believe and why we believe it. So he's asking us questions just right off the bat, big, broad, big religious questions. He's asking us, why are people in search of religion in general? And he just asked the question. So we're all just sitting there and we're just like, why are people seeking religion? And so, number one, you're seeking religion because every human being on the planet of all times is asking the same questions. What happens to me when I die? What's my purpose here on this earth? What am I doing? Why am I here? So we finally got that, and we were like, okay. And then he says, okay, young people, listen to me. But let me just go ahead and say, this is for all of us, okay? It's not just for the young people. But he was speaking so passionately to college students, because they're young and this is them. He said, okay, if you're going to call yourself a Christian, and I'm guessing that you are because you're in this room, then do you see your life truly transformed and changed because of the gospel? Or does it look the same as it did 6 months ago? Does it look the same a year ago? Where do you see growth and change? And better yet, let's go back to what I recognized at Renew Outreach. Is there evidence? Are you bearing evidence of the fruit of the gospel in your own life in such a significant way that people want to know Jesus, and you are therefore having gospel conversations on a regular basis? Because if you're not, let's reevaluate the whole thing. What are you doing with your life? And Sam's point was that in a day and age where our phones are giving us so much access to influencers online that are of all different kinds of religion. Let's look at the Mormon influence online. Let's look at the people from India online that have these very vocal voices that are not Christians. And we're taking all of that in. And if you're not truly being transformed by the gospel, then guess what's going to happen? You are going to be enticed by another religion. Because you're like, I don't really see the big deal here. Jesus, I hear all the big deal. Like, I know this is supposed to be a big deal, but it's not a big deal for me. So you either just walk away from it, or you walk away from it and you pick up another religion. And we hear about this happening all the time. And Sam said, he was so joyful and so passionate when he spoke about this, but he was like, if Jesus says, I'm the way and the truth and the life, then he's not playing about it, and neither should we. But we're playing with it very casually, like eternity's not at stake. So he starts us off with that, and then he walks us through the similarity, or not similarity, there are similarities between being a Hindu and being a Christian, which was fascinating. But Hindus are going to worship over 300 different idols, 300 different gods.
They worship cows.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure they do. But there's over 300.
That's crazy. 300.
And so we absorbed all this training. We're at the end of the week, absorbing everything, considering everything, thinking everything, feeling everything that we have felt about the greater world and our own little lives that the Lord has entrusted us with. We step into this Hindu most beautiful temple, and I've seen a lot of temples over the course of my lifetime and in different parts of the world, and this one was absolutely gorgeous. And he tells us, listen, we're going, this is a real service. It's not uncommon for people to be there that are just there to learn and just to be educated. That's fine. Nobody's going to look at us weird. So we're sitting in this very beautiful floor, this beautiful space. We're sitting Indian style. The people that are Hindu, they're there in the middle, and they're sitting Indian style, and they're worshiping like what you would imagine. They bow down, they stand up, they bow down. None of that was a surprise to me. I've seen that before. The service is over, and then they're able to walk around the room. There was an upstairs and a downstairs. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful space. And I guess, I'm just guessing, I don't know this to be certain, but I feel like I'm kind of right in this, is that they would choose whatever God they needed to go pray to or worship for whatever that person, that idol, that God represented, and that's what they would do. And they would pray, and they would kneel, and they would stand up, and it's just very, very interesting to watch. But Sam's point too was, we're doing the same dang thing. We just are not calling it a part of our religion, but there are plenty of other things that are getting our affection, that are taking our time, that we're putting too much devotion into and thinking we're going to get something in return when we're not. But anyway, so it was just an incredible week. I always walk away from it and am asking the question, and we ask the students, like, so now what? Like, what do we do with all of that? And I'm beginning to get clarity in that, but I'm beginning to get clarity, but most importantly, I have been reminded of my own walk with the Lord and my heart for discipleship and growing young people, at all of us, all ages, towards the Lord. And is my life bearing evidence, real evidence, not like average evidence, not just occasional evidence, but when I look at Josiah and I look at Samuel and I look at the women and children that we served, like, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing? Because you don't come back from that and blend right back in. You view people differently. You find yourself asking greater questions. And Sam told us, he said, listen, what's going to fuel you is compassion and gratitude. And if you are missing compassion for your fellow man, and if you're not tremendously grateful every single hour of every day of who the Lord is to you and what he's done in your life, then you're missing it. You need to start back over again. And so anyway, it's incredible. I think everybody should go to Clarkston, Georgia. I have already told the people that I will lead that trip again next year, and I want to take twice as number that we took this year, and everybody should experience a mission trip because it's the great commandment. I mean, we have been called to. It is not an option. And in this particular case, you're able to serve the nations right here in the United States. But we're called to serve those close to us, a little bit farther away, and a lot farther away. And then you just examine, who am I having gospel conversations with that are my neighbor? I'm just asking myself the questions that everybody asks themselves after a mission trip. But anyway, that's long enough, and blah, 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 blah.
Oh my gosh.
The end. Goodbye.
Well, I'm just going to have to sit for a minute and process long after this recording of, what you just said about them bowing down to so many different gods, but we are doing the same thing.
Yes. So
when we say, what's the condition of your heart?
What's the literal condition of your heart? And if you're not examining your heart and what is getting your time and attention and adoration, then it's just, we have to examine our lives. We're not promised another day. And when it's all said and done, especially the older you get and the longer you walk with the Lord, I want to go back to Josiah. I want to do my work well and what he's asked of me, whether you're a student, stay-at-home mom, you're a professional. Whatever season he's got you in, you want to do that well, but you want to lay right beside it your own genuine joy and love and compassion for the Lord. And you put those two things together and move it forward, that's where real change takes place.
Fran Thomas, you are amazing, and
Well,
that is so beautiful, and thank you for sharing that.
You're so
because,
welcome.
Oh,
You're so welcome, everybody.
I've learned so much. I'm going to be sitting in this for a long time to come.
Yeah, if y'all have questions, let us know. I'm happy to talk about anything, but yeah, my other challenge as I wrap this up and say goodbye is let's educate ourselves in world religions. We don't need to be afraid of it. I think you're afraid of it because you think you're going to be drawn to another religion because it's enticing. Mm-hmm. But remember, if you are settled and secure and love Jesus, you're sealed. You cannot. You can't escape that because you yourself are growing in your own faith. And so we have to know what's happening in the world so that we can compassionately serve and love our neighbor well. Okay, that's all.
Jesus met people where they are.
Yes. Okay, y'all are awesome. We'll see you next time. We love you so much. Bye-bye.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.